Perfect. All right. Well, everybody, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. My name is Alan Kingsley. I'm one of the academic success counselors in the MBA program here at Post. And joining me tonight for our call about the Business 700 Capstone class is Dr. Jim Lochran, one of our program chairs in the MBA program, Dr. Wayne Ems, and Dr. Michael McGivern, who will be your instructors this term. I want to just to go right ahead and get started. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Lochran. Dr. Lochran, take us away.
Well, thank you very much. And I want to thank the students for being here. And I'll give the instructors a chance to just introduce themselves. But I'll start the introduction that I am a program chair and I oversee several courses in several of the concentrations in the MBA. And I'm just so proud of you. I'm so proud of your accomplishments and being here and getting to this point, and just knowing how special you are. And I say that in a sense that only about, depending what state you live in, 8 to 10% of the U.S. population has a graduate degree. So I know it's not easy, especially being an adult learner, whether you're in the military, taking care of families, jobs, lots of other responsibilities in your lives. And I was an adult learner and I have nothing but respect for you. And so know that you are in a special group. About 40% of the U.S. population has an undergraduate degree. So you really have put yourself in a special group. And so I just want you to know that. And I also want you to know the why. And the why with this is the why of this course is to really allow you to apply what you've learned in the MBA program. This course is not meant to be a weeder outer. It's not meant to be overwhelming, although it may feel that way in the beginning. It's really meant to take what you've learned and do something with it. And that do something with it is what we're going to go through tonight in terms of the project that you choose, which is one of your choice, and also the simulation that we do are really good examples of how you can showcase what you've learned in the program. And the simulation that you're going to learn about tonight is really a chance for you to be a leader in an organization, and you'll actually run a simulated company and you'll sell items, business to business items. Now it won't be a real, but it'll be simulated, and you have all the decisions that you would normally have to make, such as who are you going to sell to, how much are you going to produce, and which markets are you going to be in, and so on. And we'll talk more about that. But I really wanted you to understand the why this course, why you're doing these things, and why it's important. These are skills that employers are looking for, especially the critical thinking, the working in teams, the financial aspect of this course as well. So I'm going to introduce my two faculty members that are teaching this term. I'll start with Dr. Ems, who has been teaching, gosh, it's been a year already, hasn't it, Dr. Ems? And you've been teaching the Capstone for many years, but
Yeah,
you've been teaching with me here for
I think
a
it's
year,
almost,
right?
it's well over a year. I think it's almost
Yeah.
2 years.
Is it two
I
now?
don't know where the time goes, but
Yeah.
I think if we check back, I think I started on term 3. So this is term 2. So next term 3, it'll be 2 full years.
Great. Well, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. As Dr. Logren said just before a couple of the other people joined, I'm in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I spent 30 plus years with Canada's largest bank. Started in the branch system, and then for the last 12 to 15 years, I worked in head office as a project manager, which was probably my most favorite role with the bank. And I see in my class, I was looking at the class list that Emily sent, and I've out of 10 students, 5 are program management, project management. That's their concentration. So I look forward to working with everybody, but those 5 will certainly have a lot in common. So I'm looking forward to working with you. If I could Dr. Logren will ask me for he'll do an excellent overview, and then he always asks the instructors to say a few words if there's anything that we think should be added to the conversation. And the one thing that I would want to state right start before Dr. Logren even goes through his overview is how important it is to log in early. You're going to be working in teams on a simulation, and invariably, there'll be a student that is a little slow in signing in. They won't sign in until Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'm getting emails from their team members asking me where John is or where Susan is. So I would tell you, as Dr. Logren said, it's not meant to weed out. It's not I'm not going to say it's an easy course. The material is relatively adaptable to what you've already learned through your MBA journey. But time management is critical. Logging in every day, even if you only have to log in for 5, 10, 15 minutes, it's really critical to watch your time management. So that's probably my biggest tip is to if you can log in on Sunday, just to familiarize yourself with the material and to familiarize yourself with the Capstone simulation. It'll put you in good stead to get off to a good fast start. So log in early and introduce yourself to your teammates in the simulation that Dr. Logren is going to talk about in a few minutes. Thanks, Dr. Logren.
Thank you. And just to be clear, you'll have access to the course on Sunday. That's when you'll get access to it. And both instructors have been working, getting everything together in the course. Dr. McGivern's also very familiar with the simulation in the course. Welcome. Wonderful to have you. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, sir. Yes, Dr. McGivern, Dr. Mike is my nickname. I've been at Post since 2007, teaching MBA courses and some bachelor courses. I just looked at my files. The first time I taught this course was the summer of 2018 with the Capstone. I think it might have been when it first started. So my background pertinent to this class is spent many years in operations management up to the manager of operations level of a firm with about 400 or 500 people in it. I was plant manager, got a lot of operations experience. And beyond that, I went out and played business consultant for 8, 9 years, I guess. I traveled everywhere, all over the place, worked for many firms like small ones like Ford, GM, Chrysler, the big boys. I worked for a lot of big ones, but a lot of mid-size as well. I love the Capstone process because I believe my peers would say the same. We learn from you guys as well as you learn from us because it's all different people with different majors, different topics and everything else. And it's pretty interesting. I do like the Capstone analysis when the students get together and do the team assignments on them because you come up with creative ways to change the business structure and try to make the firm profitable. And that's where the learning is really is in the interaction back and forth between you. And I will agree with Wayne, time management is definitely the key, but also communicating with your team, getting in early, getting on early, and making sure you have a good communication process. That's the key. And just don't wait to the last minute to get going because there's always one lagging student that drives people crazy. Don't be that student. Everybody get in and get on. So I'm always available via email. And if you want to speak to me, on the phone, just send me an email. We'll set up a time, and that's it. And looking forward to working with you this term. Thank you, Dr. Logren.
Very welcome. And I think as it stands today, we have 10 students in one and 9 in the other, but that can change. So pretty much split between the two instructors. And I handpick instructors for this course because I do consider this to be, your last experience with Post. And I really want this to be special for you. And I really want it to be a learning that you can take in your future. And so I'm going to break the course down into 4 components. We're going to talk about virtual teams. And I know as soon as you hear like, oh no, I just went through project-based learning. I don't want to do this again. I'm burned out. This is not a project-based learning course, but you are going to work in virtual teams. It's not the major part of the course. Your project will be, but it is an important part, in a sense that your whole course is not around the simulation. But gosh, good first 6 weeks certainly are, and you'll be working on your project at the same time. And so you're going to really have to get in there in your virtual teams and learn the simulation, because you're going to have to do the simulation on your own in week 6. So when I say it's not the course, it is a tremendous important part of it, but we also have something else. And that something else is the Capstone project. And I'll talk about that in a moment. So virtual teams, that they're all centered on the simulation. And the simulation will be it's outside of Blackboard. And when you get into the course, you'll see an announcement and you'll get instructions on how to access it. And you'll be going through this third party, you could call it a software, and you could think of it in some ways as a game, but in a sense, you are running a company. And it may look like a game to you, but there's a lot of strategic decisions that have to be made. And so you'll be given an ID, you'll be able to log in and put your information in, and then you're going to find a lot of instructions in there. And we have a guidebook that you should have near you. It's large, so I don't expect you to memorize it, but it really is kind of a manual that you would need to kind of navigate the simulation. But don't feel like you're alone. You'll have another, 4 or so people on your team. Our teams usually are between 4 and 6, depending on the size of the team. I think right now they're averaging around 5. And it could be a little less. And so you're going to work with each other and you're going to learn it together. And so you're going to take on different roles within that simulation. And so we don't want you to just take one role all the way through. And when I talk about roles, I'm really referring to those different aspects of an organization. So in this simulation, you're going to be selling sensors, and that may not sound like the most exciting, item to sell, but the principles of that item is the same no matter what you're selling. And so you're going to have to determine what markets you're going to sell to and how much you're going to sell, how much you're going to produce. And so you'll have a marketing aspect of this, you'll have a operations aspect, but you also have employees. So you're going to have a human resource sense also. So you'll have to be considering how important it is of your employees, and so you'll be making decisions on overtime and second shift as well. And so one of the most important aspects when you're thinking about the different roles, and we encourage you to have an overall leader that will kind of help you coordinate just like you would in an organization. But you can't operate in silos. We've had teams that, oh, I'm going to take marketing, I'll make all the marketing decisions. Oh, you go ahead and decide how much we're going to produce, and you go ahead and determine the pricing, and you go ahead and determine our employee issue, our employee strategy, and then we'll just get together and then we'll make our final decisions. That doesn't work in organizations, and it will not work here. You have to be talking things out. You have to be discussing why you're making those decisions and how that decision will affect other parts of the organization. In the real world, many organizations struggle with not understanding how a decision affects the other part of the organization. How much you price an item for, how much you produce of that item will have great effect on the profitability of the organization. So you're going to be meeting as a team throughout the first 5 weeks of the course, and you're going to be meeting both in the group discussion board, and you'll have other communication processes that you will determine what is best for your team. We don't care what you use. If you want to use the group discussion board, that's encouraged, but we know you're going to use other processes. Some of you might have your own Zoom account or Teams or whatever, and you guys utilize that. whatever you do, you just have to make sure the whole team agrees to that. And whether you use Google Docs and so on, all those things work, but they only work as good as the overall communication is within your team, and everybody agrees to that communication method. If not, do they have better ideas, and then make an agreement how often you're going to communicate. Most teams communicate at least a couple times a week. Maybe you have an actual live session once or twice a week, and then your professor will provide you feedback. You have an opportunity to do a couple what we call practice rounds as a team. And so you're going to kind of get navigating the simulation in the beginning, and then you're going to go right in to do some practice rounds in week 2. And that's exactly what it sounds like. You are just learning, and it's not going to be anything that's going to you're not going to break the simulation or anything like that by what you do, but you're going to learn how to communicate with each other. And we have these rounds. And when you hear the word round, and I said 2 practice rounds. The round is when you make these decisions and you enter them in the simulation, and you're making those important decisions like how much you're going to produce, who you're going to sell to, how much second shift are you going to have, and so on. And you're going to make HR decisions and decisions on the types of products that you're going to sell in the markets. And just like any other product, there are different markets, like the high tech market, the lower price market, the mid, and so on. And you have to decide the strategy you're going to have. So you're going to utilize what you've learned in other courses in the simulation. So you can already tell you're going to learn your marketing. You're going to apply that. You're going to apply the operations management that you've learned, and you're also going to apply the people part of it. But as you're making these decisions, as I said, you need to communicate as a group and be able to discuss these. And so you're going to make these final decisions, and you'll see the dates in your class when they're due, and they're going to be due by a certain time and a certain date. And once you enter in your decisions, and so you're going to have different reports that you use, and inside the simulation, you're going to plug in your final numbers, and you'll hit submit. And then after 11 o'clock of that day, then you'll see your results. And your results come in through the simulation. Your professor will give you some feedback for that, and then you're going to use that information as you analyze the reports to go to the next round. And as I said, in the practice round, you just have a couple. Then when you get to what we call the competition rounds, which happens in week 3, that's when it counts. And when I say it counts, is that you are going to keep with the results that you have from round 1 all the way through the 5 competition rounds, and you're going to try to continue to make improvements. And when we look at the simulation, we really evaluate you not so much on how well or didn't do well in these decisions, and what I'm really referring to is profitability of the organization, but we're really evaluating you on how you communicated that. So you're going to have you're going to have some assignments where you are going to write on your results and be able to write as if you are writing to the stakeholders of the organization, and you're going to discuss what you did well, what you didn't do well, and that you give confidence that you're learning from your mistakes or soaring with your strengths and continue to do what you're doing well. And so as you're running this business, you're going to look at these reports, make these decisions, and you're going to go through the 5 rounds. Some of you might already be thinking, well, what about somebody on my team isn't engaged? They're not doing anything. And so that doesn't happen very often. I think both instructors can say it's extremely rare at this level, because this is the very last class and students don't get here that slouch. And so it is rare. It can happen, yes, but I can count on one hand over the years when it has. But we do have 2 peer reviews in the course. and I believe they're week 4 and 6, and you can go ahead and evaluate your peers, and that's done within the simulation, and your professor sees that, and that does affect the grades on these team assignments. So it does mean something. And what's even more important than effect of those team assignments and how they get their grade reduced if they don't get um, a good peer review at a 4 or 5, I think it's out of 5. So if you are doing well and you're a 4 or 5 overall, you will get all your points. And so with that said, you also have to do this individually. So you run this with the team, you do the 2 peer review, 2 practice rounds, and then you also do the competition rounds, the 5 of them, and then you do individually. And so when you go into the individual portion of the course, which is in week 6, you're running a simulation by yourself, and you'll be doing rounds within that week, and you have the whole week to do it. And then you also have an exam inside the simulation of your understanding of it. And so if you haven't been engaged, you're probably going to get poor peer reviews, and also you will likely not do very well on the simulation. So it's kind of double whammy. So that's why it is so unlikely that somebody won't. Usually when they do, they're going to be dropping the class, something's going on in their life, and usually they drop the course before they will receive a poor grade. And so with all that said, I think we have really good teams and some really good papers in here, and students and the teams seem to learn from the simulation. So make sure you go through that guidebook, make sure you understand it, be a great team member, be collaborative, respect. We have very diverse teams. We're going to learn the importance of diversity, and people may have different opinions and how to deal with the conflicts that you may have that arise. And so be honest in those peer reviews. I don't think there should be surprise, if somebody's been not doing their job. My hope is, as you would in an organization, that you would be transparent and honest with them, that you need them to step up, or if they're not being respectful, or their quality isn't there, whatever the case is, that you've been given them the feedback. And so we want you to have fun with this simulation, because it is an opportunity to really take what you've learned, to really analyze reports, and make important decisions. And we have several reports that you look at, but I would say the most important one that your instructor is going to emphasize is the courier. And so that courier report, it's called Capstone Courier. That one really gives you your profitability. You can look at the other teams, look at your product, your market share, and those kind of things as you make these important decisions. So I love the simulation. Most students feel overwhelmed in the beginning, but by the time they get and start going, let's say after the second competition round, they start to feel at ease, start to learn how to navigate it, and so on. If you are just completely overwhelmed in terms of navigating the simulation, you're not that strong with technology, and you just kind of feel lost in how to navigate that simulation, we have a support number that goes directly to the Capstone folks, who are excellent, and they work 9 to 9 Eastern time, and you can call them and they will help you through it. We want you to contact them for any questions within the simulation, because your instructor may not see your question for several hours, or even the end of the day, and by then you've been sitting there. But if you could just call them, they can see it in real time and be able to access where you're at and help you through it. And that information, the phone number, will be provided to you within the simulation. It's also provided you in the guidebook, and if you have any questions on that, that, you can contact your instructor. But you can also email the folks at Capstone, and they're very good. So if it's in time after 9 p.m. Eastern or on the weekends, they're just 9 to 9 on Monday through Friday. But on weekends, they're very good at responding to students during that time. So I think you're going to have fun with it, and there's a lot of resources to help with that. I'm going to stop for a moment and let my instructors put in their 2 cents. So I'll start with Dr. Ems.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Logren. I have 7 points here that I normally like to emphasize, and I think you hit 6 of them. But I do want to just sort of re-emphasize a couple of things that you said. Dr. Logren mentioned a team member guide. You'll find that in your Unit 1 materials. And as Dr. Logren said, keep it handy. I think it's 35, 36 pages. So unless you've got access to free printing, you may not want to print it, but I would certainly have it on your tab on the top of your computer in your toolbar, just so that you've got it handy. That would be one of the first things that I would do when I log in on Sunday when you have access to the course is go through that team member guide. It really does do an awesome job of telling you how to navigate the simulation. I don't expect you to memorize it, but you should have it handy. And so I do recommend that you do that right away. One of the other things that I recommend that you do right away is because you're going to be part of teams, and most of the activity will take place in Capstone. However, there are activities that take place in Blackboard. So on your left-hand side of your Blackboard page, when you scroll down, you'll see a section there called Users and Groups. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click on and on the groups, and you will find that there will be two groups, which is basically 2 teams. And as Dr. Logren said, we normally have between 4 and 6. So because we've got 10 students or 9 students, there's going to be 2 teams. One's going to be Andrews and one's going to be Baldwin. And then you're going to be competing against for the other 4 teams, which are going to be computer teams. So while Baldwin's going to be competing against Andrews and vice versa, you are competing against all 6 teams within the simulation. So keep that in mind. As Dr. Logren said, the Capstone Courier, it's a fantastic report. Dr. McGivern and I will be providing you with I call it a mini summary, and I complete that once the simulation has been finalized. So if it's 11 o'clock, the results are available about 2 minutes after 11. And then if I stay up that late, then I complete my report so that when you get up in the morning, you can go in and see your results and you can see your report. And what I like to do is sort of point out what you did well, what decisions were done well, and then the decisions that maybe weren't as done as well. So I do recommend that you go into the teams in Blackboard and in your group and sign up and provide your email address, your favorite phone number, and then sort of when you're available to meet, because you are going to want to have some team meetings. Dr. Logren mentioned whether it be Zoom or Teams or Collaborate, whatever you want to use. I do recommend that certainly in the first week or 2, you want to probably have one face-to-face meeting on each round. So the 2 practice rounds, and maybe around 1 or 2, you do want to have at least one meeting face-to-face where you can have discussions. As Dr. Logren mentioned, you don't want to be working in silos. You want to be making decisions together. I do recommend, as Dr. Logren said, that you switch up the roles. So there's finance, marketing, production, and research and development. Those are basically the 4 main businesses. So each person should take on one of the roles and maybe keep it for 1 or 2 rounds and then switch to something else. It gives you a broader concept of how the simulation works. And when it comes to week 6 and you're on your own, you will perform much better on the week 6 individual component if you've rotated the roles. And then the last thing is just with regards to the peer reviews. And I've only been at Post for about 23 months, but I taught this same class, was virtually identical from 2015 at another school, and in all that time, it's probably 40 to 50 classes. For the first time ever, I had a class in term 1, and all 10 students received 5 out of 5 in both peer reviews. I've never had that happen before. I'm not sure it'll happen again. Hopefully it will with this class. But here was a clear example of 10 students that just wanted to work together. Nobody was slacking. Everybody gave 110%. And it was a thrill to see these 5 out of 5 peer review ratings. So I would say if there's an opportunity that you're going to be on vacation, if you're having family problems, COVID problems, whatever they might be, let your team know right away that something's come up and you may not be able to make a meeting or whatever it might be. And then that way there'll be an understanding with regards to your situation, and you're not going to get pegged with a bad peer review. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to add a couple really important points because a couple things have changed. When you guys go into your course this next time, it's going to look different. We upgraded our Blackboard, so don't freak out. Just take a deep breath and navigate it a little bit. It has nothing to do with the Capstone, but we just kind of went with some new bells and whistles in terms of the Blackboard. And I don't know if the instructors have noticed that, but when I first looked at it, I'm like, wow, what just happened? And so it's going to be a little different there. Also, Collaborate's no longer part of it, so you'll have to use other tools and within your teams and decide that. And we don't have any like regular discussion boards, like you've done in some of your other courses. We don't do that in this course. So everything that you do, for the most part, and I should say that we don't have typical ones, but there are some discussion boards where you give feedback to your peers. But the typical ones where you just get a question from a textbook, we don't have that. We don't have a textbook in this course. We have the simulation, which really is your resource. Dr. McGivern, is there anything you'd like to add?
Excuse me. Yes, I would. Some students, I think in the past with me, the one thing students frustrate with is, I'm scared to get in there. I'm scared to get in there. I don't know how it is in your world, folks, but my bank is changing. I have no choice over this. And I was afraid to go to the new bank this week to figure it all out. It was freaking me out. But once I got there, it was a breeze. It was easy. Same thing with a Capstone. Just, you're scared, just get in. Just jump in and don't wait, and you'll be fine. The other thing too is students, I used to get a few emails, sometimes students go, well, what's the right answer? What's the wrong answer? The bottom line to that is, what are you learning throughout the Capstone process? There are good directions to go with what you do and with the decisions you make as a team. But no matter which way you go, the learning will be there. So don't worry so much about the right and wrong. Spend time and discuss what you did each week. And as Dr. M said, he'll send you feedback. I will too, but I probably won't send it at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. I'm a morning guy. So so that's about it. Now, and also just have fun with the darn thing. I've had a lot of students say this is great. When we first, when COVID first hit and we went from on ground to Zoom style like this, the class I had went to Zoom style. I think they had more fun with that because they had nothing else to do. They couldn't leave. They couldn't leave the house or anything. So they dug in real heavy, and it was a lot of fun. So have fun.
Great. Thank you very much to both of you for giving your wisdom there. I'm going to open up to any student questions about the simulation. I'm going to go into project next. Any questions on the simulation? Well, my hope is that obviously you're not really going to understand till you get into it and you look at your guidebook, but our hope is that you kind of open your mind to think what it's like. This is very doable. You can have fun with it, and you're going to learn within the team. So if you have any questions at the end, you certainly ask them. I'm going to move on to the Capstone project. So the Capstone project is something you pick. It's not something that, hey, this is what you're going to work on. Here's a case or here's a company. That's not how this operates. You get to pick what you want to focus on, and you have a few choices in terms of how you want to approach it. The first approach, which is generally the most common, is what we call a proposal. And what we mean by a proposal is that you have an idea to improve something, to take an advantage of an opportunity, perhaps, to do something. And most students pick their own organization. And so maybe thinking about your own company, where you work, something that can make a difference. And we ask that it has to be something that applies to your concentration. So if your concentration is human resources, it needs to be a human resource issue. If your concentration is project management, then it needs to be a project of some sort of that you can apply what you've learned in our program. Same thing with leadership and innovation and entrepreneurship. So we ask that you apply. You do have to have a minimum 20-page paper when it's all said and done. I think both professors will testify that it's usually more than that, but a minimum 20-page paper. Please don't freak out and think, how am I going to do that? And you also have the simulation. You're going to be doing it throughout the course. And we have drafts that are due throughout the course. You'll get feedback both from the instructor and your peers as you go through this. Generally, you're going to be writing about 5 pages at a time. And so I always like students to think about this course as eating an elephant. If I told you you must eat that elephant, well, how are you going to do that? Well, if you think about the big giant elephant, you're going to be overwhelmed. But if you think about, well, I'm going to just think about one bite at a time, that's what you need to think about in terms of this course and the project. And so we're asking you to knock out 5 pages at a time. And so you're going to, start out with the strategic aspects of the course or of the project and think about what you've learned in that course and think about goals and smart objectives as it relates to this. You're going to apply a lot of material throughout the course, and especially those core classes of the finance course and the organizational behavior and so on. But I will say one of the most important courses, no matter what concentration you're in, is the strategy course. And I say that because you're going to be applying these concepts, perhaps like the SWOT analysis or Porter's 5 forces. A lot of times you're thinking about those kind of things as you think about strategy, but nevertheless, you're going to be doing goals and smart objectives. So if you don't remember what those are, it's been a while, then maybe refresh yourself, because we are going to ask again, goals are big picture and smart objectives are those tactics, specific, measurable, achievable, relative, and time bound. And so as you think about what am I going to write on? What is this like? Make something better, take advantage of an opportunity. How should I pick that? And I would say the first thing you should think about is, what do you have passion about? What is your passion? What is something you learn in this program or something you see in your company that you think, man, they need to be doing this. I learned about this in my MBA. They can make a difference. I can produce more. I can retain more employees. I can reach a different market. I can get a different generation of folks to buy our product. I can go overseas. Whatever the case is, think about that passion, because you're going to be writing about this for 8 weeks. We want you to do something you care about. You shouldn't pick something because, oh, you know what? I did this throughout the my whole program. I know this particular concept, so I'm going to write about that. That's not what we want you to do, because you won't have passion for it. We also don't want you to go to your boss and say, hey, do you have something around here that I can apply to my MBA project for me? we want you to determine what is important. We don't want you to take, maybe you have passion for what your boss wants, but perhaps you don't. So we really want you to determine what you have passion for. So that's the first consideration. The second consideration is you have to write 20-page paper on this. You have to have the right scope. And so we want to make sure that you don't have such a general topic that you could write 250 pages and not be able to even get into the topic. And so we want to make sure it's narrow enough, but that you can make, a 20-page paper. So that scope's important. The other piece is having resources available to you. And so if you want to study retention in your company, well, will you have the data available to you? Do you have access to that information? And can you get that? Not every student chooses their company, but we want to choose one that you can get that data for. We don't want you just choose one that you don't work for, you don't know anything about, and all you're going to get is information from the internet. That will not work. We want to make sure you can get the data you need. Quite a few terms ago, we had a student that wanted to write about Pepsi. We had another one that wanted to write about Tesla. Neither one of those folks worked there. They didn't have any information or data available to them. And so they didn't really understand the opportunity or the problem because they didn't have all the information, only what was available to them. I remember one student was so passionate about a new product at Pepsi. They just believed peppermint Pepsi would be the hottest thing out there. I personally don't get that, but maybe it was a holiday item. I'm not sure, but whatever the case is, he didn't work for Pepsi, knew no one there, didn't have any data, didn't have any research around that, didn't understand the different products, what markets, and so on. And so that wouldn't be approved. And so your professor will approve your topic the first week. You reach out to them so they kind of understand what you're focused on. They'll help you through that. And that very first assignment is helping and helping them understand. So passion, having the right scope, make sure it applies to your concentration, and yet you have resources available to you. You don't want to start working on this and all of a sudden your HR department says, no, we're not giving you that information. And so make sure ahead of time that and then, work your project around what you do have available to you. So as I mentioned, you can be doing this in drafts throughout the course, get feedback from your professor, be able to make those changes, and then at the end you'll submit your paper, minimum 20 pages, and then you'll also do a 10-minute presentation. And that presentation would be as if you were presenting to the stakeholders, and it depends what proposal you're doing. So in this proposal, that 10-minute presentation, might be to the organizational leaders. And our hope is that you'll be able to do this within your organization at some point. And we've had many folks that get promoted send us emails and tell us what a difference this has made, and they were able to get this to be implemented in your organization. So that's a proposal. That's what most students do. And the other possibility is a business plan. And a business plan means a new venture. And so and this is usually done by folks that are in entrepreneurship concentration, but not always. Sometimes we have people in other concentrations that's their dream to have their own business. And we've had everything from restaurants to breweries to consulting companies and so on. I've had a lot of coffee shops as well. And so, coming up with that business plan, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to do the drafts and you're going to do all those components and think about the passion and think about all the things and make sure you have data available. A lot of times when you're doing a project, a business proposal, you're going to get data from associations that might have that information available to you, associations within that industry that you're interested in. And that's where a lot of our students get that information. Sometimes they get it from someone that they network with that is already doing this business. I can think of one particular student who was going to do a karate studio, and they went ahead and contacted somebody in a different town in different state that was successful, and they shared information. So I think that's really important as you think about which one you want to do. One's not better than the other, but I really want you to think about what you have a passion for. And so work with your instructor on that, whether this is a business proposal or business plan. Occasionally, we have students that don't want to use their organization and they don't want to do a business plan. So we'll approve a situation where you want to take a concept from your MBA program and you want to use it in general. So maybe you don't want to apply to a specific organization, but any organization could utilize this plan. And we'll approve that in certain situations as well. For an example, that might be a strategic plan around using social media for an organization. So I'm asking you to think about your topic. I'm really happy you're here, so you can take a few days and really think about where you want to go with that. I'm going to break for a minute and see if my instructors have anything they want to add to that.
I do, Dr. Mike. I think the key of making sure you have passion behind it is perfect. You also have to make sure the scope size, as Dr. Lochran said. But another thing, I've had students who had a gentleman work for Pfizer, and he wanted to do a study at Pfizer. He was gung ho, and he said, yes, they gave me permission, but they didn't really give him permission. And he got about 4 weeks in, and he had to change direction, and that's just really, really hard. So make sure you have permission from your company. You just can't use data from a company either. You need to ask permission before you start, because it could be proprietary. Another thing too is I had a couple of students actually take their project and make it live. One gentleman worked for a firm. I'm not allowed to speak about the firm, but he came in and he and somebody at work were already working on computerizing a big system they had, because they were out in the field taking everything down by pen and paper. And this was a fantastic thing, because it was already halfway in motion when he said, can I keep working on this to go to the next level? I said, certainly. And he did. It was outstanding, not only for him, but for the class, because each week he was doing an update. This was a face-to-face class. He was doing an update and everybody was learning from him. But the really cool thing is when they implemented it about 7-8 weeks after the class ended, it was a savings of about $3 to $4 million a year. I mean, this is really what the post degree brought them, So I just wanted to add that in. Just make sure you have permission if you're going to use information from your company. So thank you, sir.
Great. Dr. Ems.
Yes, thanks, Dr. Logren. Just to follow up on Dr. McGivern's comment about the whether you have permission. In week 4, your paper needs to include financials on your project. So you're not going to be giving the financials. If you work for Chase Bank, you're not going to be giving their financials, but you're going to be doing the financials on your project. So let's say your company says they're going to give you a budget of $500,000 to work on your project. You're going to have to figure out how much your project is going to cost the company, and then you're going to have to determine what benefits money-wise your project is going to earn for the company year after year after year. So to Dr. McGivern's point, you need to have permission to access those financials. What you might find is if you're working for a smaller company that may be a private company, those financials are not for the public. So you're not going to probably be able to share those unless they give you permission to use them, but then you would have to misname the company. So you're going to be Acme ABC or Bayshore International, something like that. So make sure that you do have access to the financials that you're going to be allowed to have them. What I recommend, and I'm sure Dr. McGivern would also recommend as well, is in week 1, probably by Wednesday, Thursday at the latest, we strongly recommend that you send us your idea in an email. You can call us with the idea if you prefer, or maybe just send us an email, then we can have a look at what you're thinking about and figure out whether you're going to be able to do 20 pages on it, whether you're going to have access to the resources that you need, and whether it will be approved so that it meets all the criteria that Dr. Loughran has just mentioned. So send us your idea probably by Wednesday or Thursday of week 1. We'll have a look at it, get back to you right away, and then you're all set to submit your assignment for Sunday when it would be due. So I do recommend that. Just a couple of other quick points. It's not so much project related, but it's more around assignments and when you're sending in your work on a weekly basis. What I've found is that quite often it's pretty well apparent that perhaps the student didn't fully read through the guidelines or didn't fully read through the rubric. So make sure that you read the guidelines so you know exactly what the ask is for that particular assignment, and go and have a look at the rubric and make sure, am I hitting everything that the rubric asked me to meet? And then finally, I know I can speak for both Dr. McGivern and myself. We love to give feedback. We love to give feedback. I think students deserve the feedback, and that's one of the reasons why we're here to give you feedback so that we can improve your papers, and so that they're going to be world class by the time you get done. But what I find periodically, and not with every student, but it seems to be a good portion, is they'll get a 96 on their paper and they'll go, wow, that's great. I don't even need to, I thought I was going to get a 90 or an 87. So that they don't really go through and read the feedback. They resubmit their next portion, and you're always adding to. So what you sent in week 3 will be there in week 4, only you're going to have added to it. And it's very frustrating as an instructor to go through what you sent in week 3 and the feedback was not adhered to, and the changes that we recommended or asked for or demanded, whatever you want to call it, they haven't been done. So look at the feedback that the instructors give you and make the changes so that when you resubmit in the following week, everything that was deemed that needed attention will have been taken care of. Thank you.
Yep, thank you both. And I just want to talk a little bit about the presentation. Write this paper, and the presentation is something that, you do, like I said, as if you were presenting, but it's not live. It's done as a file. You submit it to your instructor. And but our hope is that you'll be able to do that to your own organization, or if it's your own business plan, maybe it's to investors or a bank. And so we're hoping that this will be something that really can make a big difference in your career or even in your life. So take this class seriously. It's really an opportunity to apply what you've learned. And so we've talked about the project. We've talked about the simulation. We talked about virtual teams. I'm going to go into just the last part and then open up the questions you may have on the project requirements or anything else. So there's a couple MBA requirements that we have in this class. One is the Common Professional Components Assessment. We call it Peregrine, which is a national exam that MBA students take not only throughout the country, but the world. And we don't grade you on your score. We really use this as an internal measurement to measure how we're doing in the MBA compared to similar schools, and see what areas we're strong in, not so strong in, that we can make improvements. Some of you know we've already made some changes to the MBA. We're continuing to do that, and some of that comes from this assessment. So we ask that you do your very best on it, but don't stress out. Don't send an email to your professor, I feel like I'm a failure because I got this score and I've worked so hard in the MBA. It's a score, It doesn't mean anything in terms of your grade in this class, and we don't look at it that way. We look at it at a macro level, not a micro level. We're not looking at specific students. So that's that assessment, and then we also have a reflection video, which me personally, it is my most important, my favorite part of the class, because you get to tell your story. And what I mean about this, you get to reflect on your journey here and talk about, what's went well, what you could have done differently, what courses had the biggest impact. We really take this feedback as we look at our program and think about what we did well and what we didn't do well, and how students were affected by it. But why I enjoy it so much is that you can share anything you want to share in terms of your journey. Some of you, this is you're the first in your family with not only a graduate degree, but perhaps a degree. And you went on to get your graduate degree. You may have experienced some real challenges while going through the MBA in terms of job change, family, babies being born, deaths in your family. This may have changed your life significantly. And we've had people that have been willing to share some of the things that they were homeless at some point in their life, they were incarcerated at some point in their life, or whatever the case that they feel comfortable talking about. You don't have to talk about anything you don't feel comfortable about, and your professor will see this, and we want you to speak from the heart, and you'll be able to get feedback from others as well. So only share with what you want to share. But I find it quite inspiring, and it's really why I do what I do, and why I know we make a difference to students. I'm going to stop, open up to questions that students have on the project, requirements, or anything else we covered tonight. Any questions on anything? We want you to have fun with this. I mean, I know it seems a bit intimidating. We covered a lot tonight, but we're proud of you for being here, because you can think about it. You can take some time and reflect on how you're going to, what topic you're going to use, how you're going to organize your time, and be ready for this course as it starts, and get a jump on it. But don't freak out. Don't think that that this course is meant to be your demise. By no means. We have a very high success rate in this class. Students actually do very well in this course. And I think Alan will testify, we don't have many issues. We don't have many complaints. I don't want to knock on wood. We don't. We really, students know, I just got to do this. I'm going to get through it. I'm going to have fun. And most students, they'll say, yep, it was a lot of work, but it was a good experience. And that's what I hope that you have as you go through this. So just think of this. You're going to have one heck of a Halloween. You're going to have the biggest Halloween party you ever had, because you're going to be done with this program. You don't even have to count calories that day. Just have a good time with the best Halloween party you've ever had, because you've accomplished something, and we're going to help you get there. Any last comments from the instructors or Alan?
Just for myself, I echo what you've said. Is yes, we did cover a lot tonight, but again, the material itself is not that difficult to comprehend. Capstone, by week 3, you'll be pros at it. So don't be discouraged if the first couple of times you go in, you're a little bit lost. There is lots of support from the instructors, from Capstone themselves. They've got great support team. And with the project, just find something that you're going to really enjoy, because you're going to be working on it from day one. So it'd be a long 8 weeks if you were working on something that you weren't really thrilled with. So those would be my final comments.
Well, and for my piece over here in Advisor Land, I would just remind you all that you've made it all the way to Capstone, and you've done that using a specific set of skills and habits and and things that you have learned along the way. This class is a different class than the other types of classes you've taken in the program, but those skills are going to serve you well here too. So, you figured out your time management, keep up on that schedule. You've figured out, exactly how you need to reorder your life, or what days are going to work for you, or what you need to have me call and harass you about in order to maintain your success. Keep doing that. Whatever it is that's gotten you this far, you didn't get here by accident. So again, trust yourself. You're so close. And we're here to make sure that you get every opportunity to cross that finish line and have that amazing Halloween party.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep anyone any longer because we're at the 6:30, but thank you so much for all of you being here. You can certainly reach out to Alan and he will get us any questions that you may have. He will have the PowerPoint. You'll have the PowerPoint, or I'm not PowerPoint, but you'll have the recording available to them. So have a wonderful night. Good luck to all of you. And I look forward to hearing about your results. So thank you.
Good luck, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Have a great
gentlemen.
night.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you,
Good
Mike.
night.
Thank you.
Welcome.